Okay, so we are on week 4 of how to use your legs and your hips in the golf swing. So if you've been following along, we've been working on internal and external hip rotation in the golf swing. Okay, now we're gonna put it all together. So I suggest a lot of patterning to make this work. So club across your shoulders, okay? So in our backswing, my right quad, my right knee are gonna stay still, and I'm gonna turn as much as I can without those moving. That's my internal hip rotation. We've allowed this left side to rotate aggressively. So my knee's turned in, my quad is turned in, I've got everything rotating. That's gonna be backswing. Okay, so now this hip is gonna reset back to its original position. And if you notice, I haven't left my right leg. So it's still wound up. I'm just resetting this, okay? So this went back to its original spot. Now it's gonna stabilize. Now your right side can fire through. So that's gonna be the whole patterning that we wanna create. So you wanna do a bunch of this at home. So, and another way to think about it is if you look at your pelvis should narrow as I go back. So my right leg stayed, left hip got closer to my right. Now my pelvis gets wide again, and now this narrows up my pelvis, and that makes it small. So there's my hip rotation going through. So I'm gonna go narrow, wide, narrow. So narrow, wide, narrow. Narrow, wide, narrow. So you've created a lot of pattern with all the internal and external hip rotations. You have to understand all this as you're going through. So this whole series is building on top of one another. So if you've worked hard, this is gonna start making sense to you. So you're gonna go internal, external, back to internal. So you're getting the pelvis is gonna start out neutral, it gets narrow, it gets wide, it gets narrow again. So that is your patterning. And this is how you create a crazy, crazy, crazy amount of speed. Now, one really important thing to note, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about this next week. So in my backswing, I internally rotate. My right hip stays here as this goes. So see how my right hip stays in position? This is really critical because now it can fire through. So what I'll see a lot of people do is they'll slide to their left side. See all this space I created? Now I'm dumped underneath and then I have to do something funky to hit the ball. So when you're making this transition move from narrow to wide, I can get wide if this stays. If this chases, then you're gonna be in trouble. So you go here to here. And that's the biggest move. If you can figure this one move out, like that's sick amount of speed. Okay, so that is putting it all together. Pattern this at home. Next week, we're gonna talk about all the things that I hear that are incorrect.